Bruce Wylie is celebrating 40 years at 104.9 JRFM, 830 CFJR, and 1450 CFJR today.
You just listened, and God had led me to Centennial Road, and I'm so grateful for that.
Well, thank you, Bruce. But you know, talk about listening, we just listen to you all the time, so, you know, even if it's...
You may know him as the voice of morning radio in Brockville, or maybe through his community involvement such as the Sports Hall of Fame, the Palliative Care Telethon, or the Bruce Wylie Golf Tournament. 104.9 JRFM's morning man, Bruce Wylie, celebrates 40 years on air today. I sat down with Bruce to discuss his 40 years on air and his community involvement.
And we went in and we were trying to get some funding for Riverfest, and you were very instrumental in getting us some of that funding in the early years so that we were able to, you know, kind of expand Riverfest and get it going.
So 40 years in the radio business, and something that is fairly rare is 40 years at the same radio station. How does it feel?
Well, you know, it's hard to say how it feels. Leading up to it, I got to think that I was looking forward to today and the 40 years, because I don't think there's a lot of people that have worked 40 years at one place in radio, let alone any other business. So I'm pretty proud of that fact that I've been able to stay here through different, you know, owned by different people, but never left the building kind of thing. So I'm proud of that fact. It's been it's a very humbling experience, though, when you listen to people, you know, talk about you and what you've accomplished. And I mean, I'm not naive enough to think that I haven't accomplished some things. Obviously, I have, but you don't set out to get accolades. That's not what it's about. It's about, you know, you're either a doer, you're a giver or a taker, and I think I'm a giver, and I just hope that I can continue to give for the rest of my life. Well, it was an interesting story in getting the job. There was a job interview at Toronto, CKFH, and it was kind of the dream job I thought I was going in for. Was news and sports, and it was sports particularly because they were the sports station in Toronto at the time. The job turned out to be a sports writing job. I got interviewed by Bill Hewitt, and I had the job, but he told me that it would not lead to announcing. Do not think that announcing is going to come out of this job. He was pretty clear on that fact. Now, I don't know whether that was to scare me or really to be honest about it. When I left the interview, the production manager used to work in Brockville. He found out and heard that they were looking for a newsman in Brockville. And I thought, well, geez, that's what news, sports, that's kind of the same area, so I'll head there. So I did a tape up Monday, April the 4th. I drove down the 401 to Brockville. I actually picked up a hitchhiker along the way. And the first exit for Brockville is Long Beach. I let him off there because I didn't know, it said Brockville, so I got off there. And as it turned out, I ended up downtown trying to find a radio station. I had to ask somebody and be pointed up to here where it is on Stewart Boulevard. Came in for the interview. They were Jim Chapman and Bill Inglis did the interview, and they were very open at the front to say that the newsman's job was gone. They had an announcing job in the evening. Interview didn't last very long. I had the job. When can you start? I said, well, I can probably start on Thursday. So April the 7th, I took the train back because I borrowed a friend's car to get here on the Monday. I took the train to Brockville, and 6 o'clock that night, or 6:30 actually after the news, I did my first shift. And I really remember that because I hadn't trained really to be an announcer, but I listened to Chum Toronto, and they all seem to have these, hey, you're listening to Chum Toronto kind of voices, and I thought, well, I better do that. And so I guess for about the first half hour on, that's what I was doing, and Bill Inglis came in and said, drop the voice, just be yourself, which was great advice. And so I was myself, I guess, from that point on.
Okay, so you're known for being the voice of morning radio, but you're also known for your community involvement. When did that start when you came to Brockville?
Well, I guess it started that first summer. I got golfing, and I golf at the Highland Golf Course, and I golf with a lot of people, but particularly I remember golfing with my good friend Ron Flindle, Norm Saunders, and his son Dave. And we got golf one day, and I think it was Norm suggested, he said, we don't have a competitive golf tournament. We should start a competitive golf tournament. He says, why don't you see if the radio station will sponsor one? And so I went to John Radford here at the radio station and, thought it through and said, we want to start a competitive golf tournament, and here's why, and the Highland's going to donate the golf course, and, we're going to do it next year, and when are you going to do it? Well, we'll do it in mid-July, and, da-da-da-da. And it all sounded pretty good to me. So what are you going to call the golf tournament? I said, well, we'll call it the CFJR Golf Tournament because I wanted to give the radio station publicity. And he says, no, we're going to call it the Bruce Wylie Golf Tournament because if you leave, I don't want to be stuck running it. And so that's how the Bruce Wylie's tournament started. That's kind of got me involved. And you have to understand, I'm 22 years old. And here I am with a golf tournament after my name. Golfers that are coming in for that first 5 years, they're looking for somebody who's either dead or definitely a lot older than, 22 to 25 years of age. I don't think anybody could believe that here was this young kid that was young man that was running this golf tournament that became, I'm very proud to say, the biggest golf tournament in Ontario. We ran it for 20 years, and it still runs today as the Bruce Wylie Hall of Fame Golf Tournament in Prescott, and this will be the 39th year of running a golf tournament. So it's, I've had a little experience running golf tournament. But I guess when I came in April, the golf course was really handy, and I really like golfing, so that kind of kept me. I mean, I think to this day, if I'd come in October or November, I might have left by the spring. I'd taken another job offer, but for a young guy, you're working evenings, you could golf all day. It was a pretty attractive position to have. And I can remember I started getting involved with the teenagers, like with the schools, going to school events. One of the things that I noticed right off the bat is more kids listen to CJET Smiths Falls than listen to CFJR Brockville. And so I wanted to change that. And so I got involved with the schools by going to sporting events, starting to put people's names on the air, getting them to listen that way, and we were able to get an audience at that point where people started to listen in the evening for the hit parade with Bruce Wylie, or as I came up with the slogan, Mrs. Wylie's Little Boy Bruce, and had a little jingle that ran with a high-pitched voice that said, "You're listening to Mrs. Wylie's Little Boy Bruce," and so that kind of became my statement in those early years in Brockville, and kind of one thing led to another. With involvement, I don't remember all of the things that I got involved with. Certainly the Kinsman Radio Auction would be one charity event that we donated the time at the radio station, and I got involved in doing that, and eventually became a big part of the Kinsman Club. Became really involved. I mean, eventually they made me an honorary life member of the Kinsman Club after a while. So I got involved with that. I got involved with the Wee McGregors, which was a Scottish dancing group, and we did some shows at the Brockville Arts Centre. I got involved with the Y in I guess early 1979, I think, late 1979, and in 1980 I think it was a February meeting in 1980 where they decided they wanted to sell the building, and I wouldn't let them. I wouldn't let them. I protested and said I can't allow you to sell this building without at least going to the membership, and that's when I forged a friendship with Dave Beattie, and he and I came up with a plan. We came up with a telephonathon idea. We raised over $11,000 in one afternoon to help save the Y. I think Dave went out and got some promissory notes signed, and we were able to keep the Y, to the point where the building wasn't sold, and we've got a fabulous Y that now has 5,000 members. So I'm pretty proud of that fact that we were able to do that.